Hello, everyone. This is Sonia Jones with GIP Financials. I hope you guys are doing all right. As promised, June is going to be full of content with my version of full. So my goal is to have 4 videos for you for the month of June. So this is the first one. And if you watched my, I think it was Monday, I think I posted on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn that I was going to do videos, two for nonprofits that also small businesses can use also, and then two specifically, excuse me, for small businesses regarding the PPP. So today we're going to talk about strategies for the fiscal year closeout, because most organizations have a fiscal year July 1st through June the 30th. And yes, this is June the 10th. So if you have not began planning or at least closing out, thinking about closing out the fiscal year for this year and planning for next year, uh, you are behind. But I'm here to offer grace because this year was a year fiscally like no other. And that's an understatement. And so if you kept your budget current the entire year, I'm just telling you now that you are not human. You are immortal, because it's I barely had time to even blink at my budget, let alone look at it and analyze it like I normally would. Um, just because of the amount of funding, and we praise God for the money. We do. However, there's a lot of with grants come restrictions and how you have to submit um, purchases for reimbursement and procurement and blah 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 blah. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But needless to say, I brag on my squad all the time at school. So our squad runs different. So I appreciate the hard work that they've put in to support me in our organization with our finances. So in order for you to be able to plan for your next fiscal year, your current fiscal year budget has to be somewhat accurate, right? And so I'm going to share with you some best practices and kind of walk you through a simulation or of the budget that I use at my school. Disclaimer that every all the information in there has been changed. Yeah. And so, so I just want to make sure that I gave you guys some solid information. I would love your feedback. So with that being said, we're going to share this screen. Now, I will tell you this, there are certain features that I'm going to attempt to do in Zoom that I have not done before. So I just want to make sure that um, you guys are fully aware because there may be bloopers and I'm not taking them out. All right. So the first thing that you'll want to do is to pull what we call your profit and loss statement, or if you're using QuickBooks, there's a specific report that's called the budget versus actual report. Either one is fine. But if you're using the P&L, make sure that you use the following parameters that you use as you're customizing the dates this fiscal year, depending on how your fiscal year is set up, and not year to date. Because if you just do year to date, it's only going to give you the portion of the budget between the beginning of your fiscal year and the current date. So you want the entire year. Okay. And also, you just want to make sure too that you have pen and paper, or you have plenty of space outside of your spreadsheet to take notes. Okay. So if you're in QuickBooks, this is what you should see, or your accounting software, this is what you should see. You're going to see this is this is your budgeted amount that you had approved by your board, right? To start off the fiscal year. this is the column that you actually spent, money or received money in. Okay. This column here is subtracting the budget from the actual. Okay. And this column is basically showing you how much of the budgeted amount that you've either received if you're in revenue or spent if you're in expenses. Okay. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can see the bottom of it, but I've got it sorted in three of your typical categories for your budget, which is going to be your revenue, your expenses, and your staff. Okay. So first things first, if you're looking at your revenue, you got to make sure that your funding looks accurate. Okay. And also, this will give you great guidance in um, the funding that needs to be collected and or the funding that, especially if you have a grant that goes beyond a fiscal year, you got to make sure that you're able to close that account out to be able to forward whatever the unspent funds are that you're going to probably spend the next fiscal year and move that forward. So as you can see here with our state funding, um, the budgeted amount we have 33.27 million. And currently we have received 3.21 million. So we have about $61,000 left to receive. And from the charter school perspective, where my charter school is in Memphis, we have a true up in the month of June. And the true up, depending on how your enrollment varied throughout the school year, sometimes the state overpays you based off of, like, if your enrollment was high at the beginning of the school year and then it kind of falls off, um, they have to get their money back. So this is kind of typical in our situation to receive a little bit less in June than we've gotten in the previous months. So just to give you some thought process into how I think, for the budget. So that's what that is. And then I'll always put some, comments or information here, like June true up, something like that. So I keep in mind. Federal funding. For us, this would be in pre-COVID times, E-rate and Title One. And so if you have what we call like subcategories, I would do one of two things. One, you probably want to subcategorize like a line for E-rate and a line for Title One in your accounting software. But also what you can do, you can insert a note or a comment just so you can be aware of how much of it is Title One, how much of it is E-rate. So kind of pretty much the same thing. Especially in the case of Title One and the way that we handle it with our school district, that'll be one that you'll have to manage on a monthly basis, and also check with whoever is responsible for your reimbursements, so you'll know that those items are being recorded properly, right? So that's what that is. And then you've got your donations. As you can see with the donations, we had allocated a certain amount. Oh, but we did not get that amount, did we? So in that regard, during COVID, there were some organizations that had to adjust their funding due to the pandemic and make sure that their organizations needs were met. So with that, I would just probably put a comment here. Uh, Summer funding not received, because normally in our circumstance we would receive gap funding, like a gap grant to cover what would that be, July, late June, and all of July because we don't get state funding in July, right? And like I told you before, our June money is normally less than what we normally get throughout the school year. So we still got to pay folks. We still got to pay bills. Still got to do payroll, as well as prepare and purchase curriculum and things like that. We still have to run PD. So with that being said, that's normally what will happen in donations. So just kind of going through line by line, checking to see what's what. And then also in QuickBooks, as you hover over the numbers, you'll get a little magnifying glass with a plus sign in it. And you can, if you're in the QuickBooks software, not after you run the report, make sure I say that too. So while you're in QuickBooks and you've run the report, right, you haven't exported anything, you can hover over the amount and you'll get the little magnifying glass with the plus sign, double click it, and it'll show you all the items that have been categorized under that account number. So that'll give you perspective as far as, oh, we got funding on this month, but we didn't get funding like we should have gotten in this month. This is more of a Title One example. So the Title One reimbursement for say October was 5,000, and normally you'll receive a Title One reimbursement for like 10,000. So to me, that's a reimbursement issue, right? So I'm going to talk to my team to see what's going on and why we only received 5,000. It might be on our end. It might be with the district that they didn't reimburse us for all the requests that we've submitted. So little things like that that you have to just make sure. Like I said, in a normal year, you should be doing this on a monthly basis. But due to the pandemic, you have to catch it when you can. But hopefully you catch it before June 30th, before the board approves it, right? So and approves and gets your financial report together for the board. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my notes. So I want to show you the expenses, kind of the same thing, right? Oh, I forgot to show you this. So if you notice with the variances, the difference between the red and the black, anything that's in red is just, yes, I'm in a school environment. So when I see red, I automatically kind of like get anxious, but that's not the case. It's just to give you a heads up that we haven't met the budget just yet. So from a revenue perspective, if you receive a negative number, that means you just haven't received all of your money yet. That's all that means. Red means you're below the budgeted amount. When you switch over to, excuse me, to the expenses, it's the same format. It's the exact same format because in most situations when you see red, you think that you've done something wrong. Or if you see, in this case, this -5 may look as if like we're over 5,000. That's not the case. That means that we're under the budgeted amount. Okay, so in this regard, so we got electricity. Currently, we have spent 15 of our 20,000 allotment for electricity. And in this case, this may be the situation because a lot of schools, I know for our school, we didn't start bringing babies back into the building until March. So between March and June, those electricity bills are going to be slightly higher than the ones in months past, right? Because we didn't have as many people in the building. Those rooms that weren't occupied, we kept the lights off, stuff like that. And so you got your custodial supplies, kind of the same thing. So let me add some notes here. Um, under budget due to March 1st reentry, something like that. Okay, so with the custodial supplies, we plan to spend 30,000. We only spent 12. That's primarily due to ESSER funding. because a lot of the items that we had to purchase was primarily for COVID planning. So we swapped out, I know at our school, we swapped out all of our paper towel and soap dispensers to be battery operated, and as well as with those dispensers, of course, we still had to purchase soap and paper towels, stuff like that. So that's the reason for that. And let me see, we got security monitoring, right? That's the actual security system, not security personnel, security system. And I know for us, um, this particular school year, we had to what happened with our security system? I know what it was. We had an issue with our sprinkler, the alarm, fire alarm sprinkler system, and there was a setting that was off, which caused the sensors or whatever to come on, and it activated the security system, which caused a false alarm. And so we had to pay some false alarm fees through the city of Memphis. So as you're doing your budget plan, like I said, you hear how I'm kind of thinking about things. And I'm also, if I don't remember off the top of my head, which you should, can I say something? If you are in school finance, don't feel obligated to know every number in your budget. You can't, it's too many kind of picking numbers. It's too many numbers. I'm just saying that. And as I was saying with security monitoring, make sure that you just keep notes of everything, because not only is your school director looking at this information, your board is looking at it as well, and they would like to know, right? And so if you already come into the meeting with notes, and like these particular notes here, you don't have to share with the board. That can be just for your own uh, personal guidance. However, if they ask, you'll be ready. Like bam, 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 bam. Right. So just to let them know that you're on top of things. Internet website, same thing. ESSER funding pretty much took care of a lot of the expenses that we incurred. Phone and fax looks like it's pretty spot on. And then technology, if you notice that in this example, we budgeted for one amount, we actually spent more, right? And I know I can explain a scenario that happened to us that I'm pretty sure with some other charters or some other organizations can happen as well. So if you receive a grant, right, and one of two things can, well, I can say one of many things can happen. Either revisions of the grant expectations and the rules could be changed, and you may not receive the update. And so, because of that, if you spent money and submitted for reimbursement, and like, oh, we can't reimburse this because of XYZ and da da da, and then you're like, what? And then you start going to, this whole email version of WWE, and right. So, some of the expenses and stuff you just have to um, eat, I guess you can say, and just be more strategic on how you process reimbursements in the future, right? So, if anything, that can be probably a reason why we spend more than the budgeted allotment. That's just one example, but anything can happen. To say for, especially like all you like with maintenance, right? There might be things that happen, particularly like plumbing, electricity, anything with the HVAC that you weren't expecting to experience outside of your regular maintenance contracts, and you have to spend more, right? Little stuff like that. So you're just being able to be very clear and articulate on the things that you're spending money on. And then also here, with the sample budget of the personnel, kind of the same thing. Now, one thing I will say here is that the based on how often you guys get paid, your payroll should be pretty accurate. There really shouldn't be anything that's off, unless probably this year, if you're a school and you had the fortune to bless your folks with a bonus or anything like that, unless it's something unplanned, meaning unplanned as of July the 1st at the beginning of your fiscal year, then your payroll should be pretty much spot on. And if it's not, that means it's probably a coding issue going on. And money's not being allocated to the proper account. So you got to make sure that you watch out for that. Okay. And so for um, best practices, all right. The first thing with best practices is do not, do not, this do not attempt to do this in one day. Do not attempt to do this in the whole day. Can I say it again? Is this thing on? Do not attempt to do this in one day. Okay. Pace yourself. This can be overwhelming. You notice how I have these three um, categories here. So you have to, if I were you, I would do it by category. And depending on how many account lines that you have in the category, I would make sure that you divide those account lines up, like 5 account lines, you know, at a time until you get your budget redone. Okay. I wouldn't probably do any more than 4 hours in a day. Don't do yourself like that. You'll be cross-eyed. Think about numbers all day. And then sort your budget by what you can tolerate. Right. So for me, um, I've got I got your revenue here. I normally start with revenue because it's easy. Right. Like I said, staff is pretty much cut and dry. Um, and then for me, I would probably do revenue. Staff, I probably wouldn't like really spend a whole lot of time off. Like I said, it's pretty accurate. But then expenses, I would kind of break those down because we got supplies and materials, we got contracted services, all other supplies and materials, da 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 da. So I would probably take that approach when you're going through your budget. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that I did not miss anything. Oh yeah. And so before I go into my annotation in the upcoming bloopers, because I know I'm going to goof. So um, also, as you're going through the budget, especially with the expenses, you're going to probably notice that there were some um, budget items that you planned for, but you did not um, you didn't spend money on. So you may have, like, say, for one of the ones that we normally keep money for is permits, right? For any type of like your not LLC, but the annual report, stuff like that that you have to submit to the Secretary of State, any type of licenses, building occupancy stuff, whatever. And so we'll allocate a certain amount, but depending on the year or whatnot, we might not spend that. So you might have to just close that money out for the budget, right? And that's okay to do that. The budget is a living, breathing document. If your budget remains the same from July 1st to June 30th, I need you to put it in the bottle and sell it to everybody because that's normally not what happens. Unless y'all got about 50 50,000 people and you're hiring one person per account line because dude, it just doesn't work that way. And things happen. So, and that's another thing I want to encourage you on as well. The budget is not supposed to stay the same between July 1st and June 30th. It's just not supposed to. So I know it's probably harder to do that, especially with larger organizations. I will say that. However, again, it's just not realistic. That's just my soapbox. So with that being said, here we go. So what I wanted to also show you is kind of how I take notes on my budget. So I'm laughing because I know there's gonna be something goofy. All right, so the first thing that I do, I can use the mouse for this. So the first thing that I do is every account line that it it looks like I need to hover over and click on, the magnifying glass I was telling you about. I normally highlight that in yellow. So with that being said, where's the technology one? This is the one I would probably highlight. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so I would highlight that and then just that'll let me know that I need to check that line item to see what else is going on there. Okay. If I use an up arrow, that means that um, the actual is over the budgeted amount and I probably need to adjust the budget, right? So in this case, let me go back to I guess I draw. Do I draw? Yep, I draw. All right. Let's try to see how this goes. So in this case with the technology, since we spent 20K and the budget is 16K. See, I knew I was gonna do. Hold on. I think I did it wrong. Let me use the erase. I'm gonna erase that. I think I'm supposed to use the text. And I'm gonna use blue. No explanation needed. Cotton picking. I knew it was gonna happen. So I don't know how to draw. I had it working. I promise I had it working. And it didn't do it before. Let's see. Yeah, something's going on. I don't know what I did. All right. So basically I will put an up arrow here. I'm gonna try to get it though. Let me try it again. All right. I got a pencil this time. Oh, sookie, sookie. Here we go. All right. Well, you know what that is. That's an up arrow. So that lets me know that I need to increase that, right? And so I'll probably just put a note on the side to increase to 20K, right? Same thing for the down arrow, right? The actual is below the budgeted amount. So if I go to, like say, revenue, hold tight little crooked arrows. All right. And if I go to revenue and I notice that there is, okay, I think I got it. And so, say for example, you've got a la carte sales, right? So we didn't receive as much as we thought we would receive in a la carte sales because we hadn't been in school. And what we use a la carte sales for is like any type of replacement uniform shirt fees. We always keep an extra inventory of uniform shirts. We give our scholars 2 free shirts, but if parents need to purchase additional shirts, we have some in stock. Little stuff like that. And so if I need to, I will. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to clear out and go back so I can get that pencil. Yeah. And so in that regard, I would do a down arrow and then just adjust it to $100. Right. And just make a note. Especially now as we approach the closing of the school year, nobody's buying anything. We can pretty much adjust it. Okay. So that is the down arrow. The right arrow, just a horizontal arrow means to keep the budgeted amount for next year. Okay. Let's see. Hey, I'm recording. All right. And so, all right. So, part of that, the right arrow. If I want to keep a budget amount for the upcoming year, let me go back to expenses. So, what I did for expenses is, want to be a good one. How about custodial supplies? All right. So, for custodial supplies, I know there's got to be an easier way to do this. All right. So, with custodial supplies, because of the fact that we receive a lot of funding for PPE, however, next year we're going to have all the babies back in the building. So I'm pretty confident I want to keep that 30,000 as it is. So I'm going to do an arrow there, and that lets me know that we're going to take that budgeted amount to the next fiscal year. Or I'll put the arrow here. It really doesn't matter. Just that's whatever your flavor is. And then in some cases, I will put an R. And the R means to reallocate the budgeted amount for the current year, right? Which means to adjust budget amount or to close it out, kind of like what I did with a la carte sales. So let me go back. I noticed I can't get, oh, well, I couldn't do that. All right. Let me get, annotate. Let me do it. There we go. All right. So in this regard for, I say for local funding, right? That one would need to be adjusted to the actual amount. So I would do an R right there. And then also for a la carte sales, I would, let me see. No, we said we will already adjust that one. So I will probably put an R there. Um, like I said, those are kind of some of the symbols that I use for my budget planning. So like I said, I use yellow just for review. I will use the arrows just to show what the variance is. So I won't have to, constantly have to be looking at numbers. So let me see. I think I'm gonna try to do one more. Let's try it. And what I'm supposed to do with these R's? What I'm doing up here. We gotta erase these. Erase the arrows. All right. So let's go to, we didn't do anything in staff. Let's go to staff, see if there's anything. I try to throw a whammy on. So executive director looks good. Admin looks good. Facilities, tech, program staff. Yep, everybody looks good. Everybody looks good on that. And so, okay. So for, if there is a line item that's for review, like I'm gonna use the technology one. That's the one I used before. So as I'm scanning through it for the first time, I forgot to mention this with my arrows. I would do that. So I would highlight it. I was like, oh, that looks weird. I'm highlight it and then put an up arrow to show like why I'm reviewing it, because the actual amount is more than the budgeted amount. Okay. So I apologize if I didn't make that clear the first time. So that's how I use my symbols. So I use arrows, I use highlighters, I like yellow. If you got other colors, you can use those too. I appreciate your patience as I was navigating the annotation tool because I don't know how to use it, but I try my best. So, with that being said, as I hope this made a whole lot of sense to you as you're going through your planning, because your current year budget will help you in your next fiscal year budget. So that's what the new video is going to be. The next video is going to be about how to do the planning for the next fiscal year. Okay. So all those notes that you took in your current year um, budget versus actual, those are going to be critical to how you structure the current, oh wait, not the current, the next year's budget. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share here. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. And just for housekeeping purposes, right? Because this is all still new to me with the marketing and all that good stuff. Did you, first of all, get into the virtual background? Shout out to Canva and Vistaprint. I'm just saying, Canva and Vistaprint. And so, I'm not an affiliate, so I'm gonna worry about that. I just like giving honor where honor is due. And so I have a mailing list. Yay. All right. So I will put the link for the opt in the description below. And so it's a free training on the 3 mistakes that businesses make in their finances. And so once you opt in, it's kind of like we go together, right? So I'm going to give you some not only heads up on the new content that I produce, but I will also be giving you guys, um, discounts and things like that because you rock with me in that way, right? And I'll also be, doing some special promos specifically for the email group as well. And then also, too, once you click on the link and you get the free training, you'll also have an option to schedule a free consultation with me. So you can do that as well. And also, if you're looking at your current budget and you're like, yeah, I don't think this is my ministry, I need somebody on my squad to do it, I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Just feel free to go to GIP. Well, no, you can click on the link below, and I have a link tree, and one of the buttons below will say schedule a consultation. It's free, 30 minutes, and I can help you with what you need. And so from there, we'll discuss pricing and all that good stuff. So I hope this was helpful. Okay. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on IG. I'm on Facebook, IG as GIP_financials. I'm in LinkedIn as Sonia Jones. So take care, you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.